Hello friends, prepare to be swept away by one of the most beautiful, heartbreaking, and powerful cross-cultural love stories ever told. A free-spirited British girl named Lily, abandoned by her parents and raised in the heart of Africa, never expected to fall in love. But when she meets Aziz, a handsome, compassionate Ethiopian doctor, she slowly realizes that she has developed deep, undeniable feelings for this African man. Their passionate romance blooms against the stunning backdrop of Ethiopia. But when a brutal civil war erupts, their world is violently torn apart. Lily is forced to flee to England, carrying nothing but memories and a broken heart. Will she ever reunite with the man who changed her life forever? This emotional journey explores love, identity, loss, and the strength to keep hoping against all odds. Come on, friends. Let's not waste any more time and start this unforgettable romantic drama right now. The film begins at a refugee reception center in London, where Layla is standing in line, waiting to receive her passport. The center's manager enters and takes her to his office. Layla tells the officer that she originally has British citizenship, but spent 12 years living in Morocco before moving to Ethiopia, where she stayed until she migrated to London. She expresses her desire to return to Ethiopia, but the manager tells her that it is not possible because the country is in crisis and chaos. At this moment, Layla recalls a memory from her past. When she was 7 years old, her parents took her to a temple to meet a pious man named Abdul. However, they abandoned her there, promising they would return soon. Coming back to the present, the center's manager informs Layla that when she was a child, her parents had applied for a passport for her, but they never received it. Since she is a British citizen, her situation is different from that of other refugees. Therefore, the manager issues her a new passport and grants her all the rights and privileges of a British citizen. Afterward, she joins the other refugees in temporary housing. A woman explains to them that the next day, a list of those who will be granted permanent residency will be posted on the wall. The rest of the refugees will be forced to live in camps. At that moment, Layla remembers when she traveled from Morocco to Ethiopia to teach children the Quran. However, the village sheikh refused to accept her because she was a woman. In these circumstances, Getch, the sheikh's wife, helped her and took her to her friend Nuria's house, where Layla was allowed to stay in exchange for money. Back in the present, Layla realizes that she is the only one who has been granted permanent housing by the government. When she arrives at her new home, more memories from the past resurface. In Ethiopia, when Nuria's daughter fell ill, Layla accompanied her to the hospital, where she met a doctor named Aziz. From the very beginning, Aziz showed an interest in her. Layla is pulled out of her thoughts when someone knocks on her door. When she opens it, she finds a couple who have brought their son for Quran lessons. However, when they realize that the teacher is a woman, they change their minds and leave. This incident triggers another memory of Aziz. The next day, Layla goes to South Hospital to apply for a job. At first, the hospital director wants to hire her as a cleaner, but Layla convinces him otherwise by explaining her skills, and he agrees to employ her as a nurse. On her way home, she sees a woman named Amina going into labor on the steps of the building where Layla lives. Two of the neighbors also rush to help. Layla soon learns that Amina is a refugee who has not been provided with housing by the government. She offers Amina a place to stay in her apartment. That night, Layla remembers how Aziz fulfilled her wish by taking her to the riverside, a place she had always dreamed of visiting. The next day, after finishing work, Layla puts up a photo of Aziz in the hospital with a note that reads, "Missing. If anyone knows him, please contact me." Then, she goes to the hospital's medicine room and takes some milk and medicine for Amina's newborn baby. Just before she leaves, she runs into a doctor named Ruben, who is sitting in the room, reading. When Layla tries to explain that she is taking the medicine for someone in need, Ruben believes her without question and even gives her more supplies. When Layla returns home, she finds that the neighbors have gathered in her apartment to help Amina and her baby. This makes her happy. Amina, feeling embarrassed, apologizes to Layla for making a mess of her home and says she plans to leave with her children soon. However, Layla insists that she stay so they can live together and not be alone. The next day at the hospital, Dr. Ruben thanks Layla for her work and acknowledges how well she cares for the patients, despite not having formal training. At that moment, from the corner of her eye, Layla sees a man walking toward the elevator. She thinks to herself, could it be Aziz? She calls out his name loudly and runs after him. But when she reaches him, she realizes she was mistaken. The man only resembles Aziz. This incident triggers another flashback. In this memory, Layla is sitting with Aziz and his friends as they discuss political issues and a military coup being carried out against their country's king. During the conversation, Aziz and one of his friends strongly disagree, and their argument intensifies. Unable to continue the discussion, Aziz leaves in frustration, and Layla follows him outside. At that moment, Aziz confesses his feelings to Layla and tells her that he has fallen in love with her. Layla, in turn, reveals her own feelings, admitting that she feels the same way. After returning home, Layla tells Amina what happened. She explains how the man resembled Aziz so much that she instinctively ran after him, only to be disappointed when she realized it wasn't him. She then shows Amina a photo of Aziz and asks if she recognizes him, but Amina replies that she has never seen him before. The next day, as Layla walks through the streets of London, she notices many refugees pasting pictures of their missing loved ones on the walls. At this moment, it becomes clear that most of them have migrated due to the civil war in their homeland. Upon arriving at the hospital, Layla takes a break in the hospital garden. Dr. Rubin approaches her and playfully remarks that this is his favorite spot and that he comes here every morning to sit. Although his tone is lighthearted, Layla does not respond to his jokes. Instead, she quietly leaves, not allowing the conversation to develop further. Later that evening, after returning home, Layla and Amina prepare dinner together and tidy up the house. While working, Layla talks about the man who raised her. She tells Amina that after her biological parents abandoned her in Morocco, they left her in the care of Abdul. He took her in as his own daughter, raising her while teaching her the Quran, astronomy, and mathematics. At that moment, Amina tells Layla that she has heard rumors about her past among the refugees. She explains that some people say Layla's real father was involved in drug trafficking and that her mother owned an opium farm. According to these rumors, her parents abandoned her to protect her from rival trafficking groups. In the next scene, Amina informs Layla that she has found a part-time job that requires her to work 3 days a week. She explains that she intends to gradually find more work until she can afford to rent her own home and move out so as not to burden Layla any longer. She then shares details about her past life with her husband. Amina recounts that her husband was an agricultural engineer and they had a very good life together. However, everything changed when he started attending political meetings. Eventually, he became involved in the revolutions and protests against the country's king. Amina tried multiple times to convince him to stop, but he never listened to her. In the end, he was killed by the king's military forces. Layla then recalls the year 1974, when the people succeeded in overthrowing the king. However, after his removal, the military temporarily took control until a new king was chosen. The country descended into chaos, and the army began arresting anyone who opposed them. Layla visits Aziz at his home, but he tells her that she should not come there anymore because the army is watching his house, and she could be arrested at any moment. At that moment, Aziz asks Layla to spend an entire day with him. Layla agrees, and they plan to meet the following day. Back in the present, Layla returns home and finds that Amina has bought her a gift, a few pieces of furniture that she purchased with her first paycheck. She gives them to Layla as a token of gratitude for all the help she has provided to her and her children. Later that night, while Layla is asleep, she suddenly wakes up, feeling as if she has heard a noise coming from the bathroom. When she goes to check, she finds Amina sitting in the bathtub, crying uncontrollably. Through her tears, Amina tells Layla that she still cannot come to terms with everything that has happened to her. She explains that she lost her husband suddenly and now finds herself as nothing more than a refugee in a foreign country. Layla tries to comfort her, but at that moment, Amina reveals a devastating truth. She confesses that she lived in a refugee camp for 8 months and was assaulted there. Her youngest daughter, Sita, is the result of that assault. Layla is shocked by this revelation, but she gently tells Amina that she must leave the past behind and focus on living for her children. She urges Amina to start a new life. The next day, Amina goes to work and Layla begins her shift at the hospital. After finishing her work, she visits Amina and learns that she is considering setting up an office to register refugee information. Amina explains that her goal is to collect records of all the refugees who have fled their countries so that they can reconnect with their lost family members. Layla is impressed by the idea and encourages Amina to pursue it. At that moment, another memory from Layla's past resurfaces. She remembers the day she went to meet Aziz to spend the day they had planned together. That day, Layla revealed another secret to Aziz. She told him, "I have only drunk alcohol once in my life." This happened when she was still under the care of her biological parents, as they were not Muslim. But after Abdul raised her, she embraced his faith and realized that drinking alcohol was forbidden. Since then, she never touched it again. The scene shifts back to the present, and Layla, coming out of her memories, walks home with Amina. On the way, she stops at a restaurant to buy food and unexpectedly sees Dr. Rubin there. The moment Rubin sees Layla, he leaves the restaurant and invites her to have dinner with him, but she declines. Just then, Amina notices them and approaches to meet Rubin. She speaks to him warmly and kindly, but later, she leaves with Layla. On their way back, Amina asks Layla why she acts coldly toward Rubin. Layla replies that she doesn't know the reason herself, but something inside her keeps pushing her away from him. Amina smiles and says it's obvious that Rubin likes her. This makes Layla nervous, and she firmly responds that she belongs only to Aziz and could never think of another man. When they arrive home, Layla's eyes fall upon a flyer with Amina's picture on it. The flyer states that Amina's husband is searching for her. Layla realizes that, contrary to what Amina had told her, her husband is still alive. She immediately confronts Amina about it. Amina calls Ahmed, her son, and asks him to take Sita to the neighbor's house so they don't overhear their conversation. Once Ahmed leaves, Layla asks Amina why she hid the truth. Amina explains that she believed her husband was dead, but now that she knows he's alive, she doesn't know how to face him. Layla assures her that her husband will understand and will not blame her. Eventually, Amina is convinced to tell him the truth. The next day, Amina writes a letter to her husband, asking to meet him. Meanwhile, Layla reminisces about Aziz once again. The country was in turmoil again, and Aziz told her he planned to help her escape with a group of refugees, assisted by one of his friends. He wanted to save her, but he himself would stay behind to protect those who couldn't defend themselves. At first, Layla refused, but Aziz explained that the army had spotted him, and if he stayed, he would be arrested, putting Nuria and her daughter's lives in danger. He promised that as soon as things settled down, he would leave the country and come to find her. Back in the present, Layla hears on the news that Ethiopia is suffering from famine, with over 100,000 people starving. The military is also killing innocent civilians without reason. That same night, Yusuf, Amina's husband, arrives at the house. When he sees Amina and their children, he cannot contain his emotions. When he holds Sita in his arms, he smiles and tells Amina that he will raise her as his own daughter. Amina is relieved because she was afraid her husband would reject Sita. The next day, Yusuf comes to take Amina and their children home so they can live with him again. Before leaving, he thanks Layla for everything she has done and promises to help find Aziz. As Layla says goodbye to Amina, she feels an overwhelming sense of loneliness, but she pretends to be happy. Once Amina and her family leave, Layla returns to living alone. The following day, at the hospital during lunch, Dr. Rubin sits at Layla's table, claiming that there were no other empty seats in the cafeteria. He tries to talk to her, but Layla repeatedly ignores him. Feeling hurt, Rubin apologizes and walks away. Later, when Layla returns to the refugee office, a man named Tark approaches her. He explains that he was imprisoned in a border prison in Somalia, and Aziz was one of the prisoners there. Tark tells her that, despite brutal torture, Aziz continued to help other prisoners and never gave up. But in the end, the soldiers executed him by firing squad, along with a group of prisoners. Tark hands Aziz's death certificate to Layla. Completely devastated and broken, Layla collapses in the street on her way home. The next day, when she opens her eyes, she sees Dr. Rubin sitting beside her. He tells her that he found her unconscious in the street and brought her to the hospital. Realizing that Rubin truly cares for her, Layla gradually grows closer to him, and their relationship turns into a deep friendship. In the end, Layla rebuilds her life. She works at the hospital during the day and at the refugee office at night, helping people reunite with their lost families.